The auction house smelled like rust and fear. Yuna stood at the back of the crowd, her small body hidden behind the tall alien traders. She had worked 3 years for this moment. 3 years of cleaning stables, feeding creatures, and saving every credit she earned. Now she had 200 credits in her pocket, and she was looking for something to save. The Rimward auction house was not a kind place. It sat on Station Omega 12, a dirty trading hub at the edge of known space. Here, the galaxy sold what it did not want. Broken machines, sick animals, failed experiments. The aliens called it recycling. Yuna called it cruelty. She watched as creatures were dragged across the stage. A 6-legged transport beast sold for 3,000 credits. A pair of hunting birds went for 500? The crowd shouted and waved their hands. Money changed owners. Lives changed owners. Yuna waited. Then the auctioneer's voice dropped low. Lot 77, he announced. Catherine War Beast, Class 4 combat grade, defective, non-responsive to neural commands. The crowd went quiet. 2 handlers dragged a creature onto the stage, and Yuna felt her heart stop. The Catherine was massive. He stood taller than any horse from Earth, with thick armored plates covering his body. But something was terribly wrong. His armor was cracked and dull. His ribs showed through his skin. His left eye was clouded white from an old wound. Scars covered his neck and shoulders like a map of pain. He did not fight the handlers. He did not look at the crowd. He simply stood there, head down, like he had already given up on life. Starting bid, the auctioneer said with a bored voice. 200 credits. Silence. Someone in the crowd laughed. 200, I would not pay 2 credits for that meat. More laughter followed. The aliens looked at the broken war beast with disgust. He was supposed to be a weapon, a symbol of military power. Instead, he looked like a ghost. A reptilian officer near the front crossed his arms and smiled. Yuna noticed him. His scales were dark green, and his uniform showed high military rank. Commander Val, she had heard his name before. He was known for his cruelty. That beast was mine once, Val said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. It refused to follow commands. It is worthless. Send it to the recyclers. The crowd murmured in agreement. The auctioneer raised his staff, ready to close the auction and send the creature to its death, but Yuna was not looking at the crowd. She was looking at the Catherine's eye, his one good eye. And in that eye she saw something the aliens could not see. He was not empty, he was exhausted, he was afraid. He had fought so hard for so long, and now he had nothing left. But somewhere deep inside, a tiny flame still burned. Yuna knew that flame. She had felt it herself, long ago, when she and her brother had lost everything. 200 credits, she called out. Every head turned toward her. The alien stared at the small human girl with confusion and amusement. The auctioneer blinked his 4 eyes. The human bids 200, he said slowly. Any other bids? Silence. Then laughter again. Let her have it, someone shouted. The creature will kill her within a week. Commander Val looked at Yuna with cold eyes. He seemed annoyed that anyone would want his discarded property, but he said nothing. The beast was worthless to him now. The auctioneer slammed his staff against the floor. Sold, to the human female, 200 credits, Yuna walked forward. The crowd parted around her, aliens stepping back as if she carried a disease. She did not care. She reached the stage and held out her credit chip. The auctioneer took it without a word. He is your problem now, he said. Yuna approached the Catherine slowly. He was 3 times her size. His claws could cut through metal. His teeth could crush bone. But she was not afraid. Hello, she said softly. My name is Yuna. I am going to take you home. The creature did not respond. He did not even look at her. But when the handlers tried to drag him away, he walked on his own. He followed the small human girl off the stage and through the crowd. Outside the auction house, Yuna's brother was waiting. Taiho was older, stronger, and much more worried. He worked as a mechanic on the station, fixing ships and machines. He had tried to talk Yuna out of this plan 100 times. Yuna, he said, staring at the massive war beast. What did you do? I saved him, she replied. That thing is a weapon, a broken weapon. It will kill you. Yuna shook her head. No, he will not. How do you know? She looked at the Catherine. He stood behind her, silent and still. His head hung low. His body was weak, but he had followed her. Because he already gave up on fighting, Yuna said quietly. He does not want to hurt anyone, he just wants someone to see him. Taiho opened his mouth to argue, but no words came. He saw the look in his sister's eyes. It was the same look she had when she rescued sick birds on Earth, the same look she had when she found injured creatures in the station's garbage dumps. Yuna was not going to change her mind. Fine, Taiho said with a heavy sigh. But I am helping you. And if that thing even looks at you wrong, I am calling security, Yuna smiled. His name is Gale. You already named him? He needed a name. She reached up and gently touched the Catherine's scarred shoulder. He flinched but did not pull away. Everyone deserves a name. Behind them, the auction house continued its cruel business. But Yuna was already walking toward the lower decks, toward her small stable, toward the next chapter of their story. Gale followed her into the dark corridors of the station. He did not know why. He did not understand this strange human girl who spoke softly and moved slowly. But for the first time in many years, he felt something other than pain. He felt hope. Gale did not eat for 7 days. Yuna brought him food every morning. Fresh protein blocks, nutrient paste, even real vegetables from the station's garden level, which cost her a full day's wages. She placed the food in his pen and stepped back. She waited. She hoped. Gale stood in the corner, facing the wall. He did not move. He did not look at the food. He did not look at her. It is okay, Yuna said softly. I will come back tomorrow. And she did. Every single day, Teho watched his sister with growing worry. He's going to die, Yuna. You cannot save something that does not want to be saved. He wants to be saved, Yuna replied. He just forgot how to believe it is possible. Her stable was small and hidden in the lower decks of Station Omega 12. Nobody came down here. The corridors were dark and forgotten. But Yuna had turned one storage room into a home for broken creatures. A blind bird sat in a cage near the window. A 3-legged mammal slept in a warm corner. And now, a Catherine war beast stood in the largest pen, refusing to live. On the 8th day, Yuna did something different. She did not bring food. She brought a chair. She placed the chair outside Gale's pen and sat down. Then she started talking. I grew up on Earth, she said, in a small village near the mountains. My mother taught me how to care for animals. My father worked in the fields. We were poor, but we were happy. Gale did not move, but his ear twitched slightly. Then the colony wars came. The aliens attacked our planet. My parents died trying to protect us. Yuna's voice stayed calm, but her hands trembled. Taiho and I escaped on a refugee ship. We ended up here on this station. We had nothing. No home, no family, no hope. She paused and looked at the massive creature in the pen. I know what it feels like, she said quietly. To lose everything. To feel like nobody is coming for you. To want to give up. Gale's head moved slightly. Just a little. But it was the first movement he had made in days. Yuna smiled. But someone did come for you. I came. And I am not leaving. She sat with him for 3 hours that day. She talked about Earth, about the sky and the rain and the smell of grass after a storm. She talked about her mother's cooking and her father's laugh. She talked until her voice grew tired. When she finally left, she looked back one more time. Gale had turned his head. He was looking at her. The next morning, he ate. Not much. Just a few bites. But it was enough. Yuna cried happy tears and hugged Taiho so hard he complained for an hour. Days turned into weeks. Gale slowly began to change. He still flinched when Yuna came too close. He still trembled when loud noises echoed through the corridors. But he was eating. He was drinking. He was surviving. One evening, a woman named Bora arrived at the stable. She was human, a veterinarian who worked in the station's medical district. Taiho had asked her to come examine Gale. Bora was calm and professional. She approached the pen slowly and studied the Catherine with careful eyes. May I examine him? She asked Yuna, if he lets you. Bora entered the pen. Gale tensed but did not attack. She moved slowly, checking his eyes, his armor, his breathing. When she reached the back of his neck, she stopped. "There," she said. "The neural implant." Yuna looked closer. A small metal device was buried in Gale's neck, just below his skull. It sparked weakly, sending small jolts through his body. He flinched every time. "What is it?" Yuna asked. "The Drakmor military uses these implants to control war beasts," Bora explained. "The implant sends commands directly into the brain. Pain if they disobey, pleasure if they obey. The beast has no choice but to follow orders." Yuna felt sick. "That is horrible." "It is effective," Bora said coldly. Then her voice softened. "But this implant is destroyed, burned out from the inside." She looked at Gale with new respect. He resisted so hard that he fried his own control chip. The pain must have been unimaginable. But he chose agony over slavery. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. She understood now. Gale was not broken because he was weak. He was broken because he had fought too hard. "Can you remove it?" she asked. Bora nodded. "It will take surgery, and recovery will be slow. But yes, I can remove it." The surgery happened 3 days later. Bora worked for 6 hours. Taiho paced outside. Yuna sat perfectly still, her hands pressed together, praying to any god that would listen. When Bora finally emerged, she was smiling. "It is done. He will heal." Yuna entered the recovery room. Gale lay on his side, breathing slowly. A bandage covered his neck. For the first time, his body was completely still. No twitching, no flinching, no pain. She sat beside him and placed her hand on his shoulder. "You are free now," she whispered. "No one will ever control you again." Gale's good eye opened. He looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, he lifted his massive head and rested it against her shoulder. Yuna wrapped her arms around him and held on tight. Taiho stood in the doorway, watching. He had spent his whole life protecting his little sister. He had worried that this creature would hurt her. But now, seeing them together, he understood something important. Yuna was not saving Gale, they were saving each other. From that day forward, Gale allowed Yuna to touch him freely. He followed her around the stable like a shadow. He slept only when she was nearby. And when she spoke to him, he listened as if every word was precious. The bond between them grew stronger every day. It was not training. It was not control. It was something older and deeper. It was trust. And in the dark corners of Station Omega 12, where the galaxy threw away its broken things, a human girl and a war beast built something beautiful. They built a family. Word traveled fast on Station Omega 12. Within a month, everyone knew about the human girl and her war beast. Traders talked about it in the market halls. Engineers whispered about it in the repair bays. Even the station's security officers discussed it during their night shifts. A broken Kethrin, saved by a human child, impossible, ridiculous, and yet completely true. Aliens began visiting Yuna's stable. Some came because they were curious. They wanted to see this strange pair with their own eyes. Others came because they were mocking. They laughed at the foolish human who wasted her money on damaged goods, but a few came because they were amazed. They watched Yuna walk beside Gale through the lower corridors. They watched him lower his massive head so she could stroke his scarred face. They watched the gentleness between them and felt something they could not explain. "How did you do it?" A young alien trader asked one day. "How did you tame a Kethrin?" Yuna smiled softly. "I did not tame him. I just listened." The trader did not understand. Neither did most of the others. But they kept coming and they kept watching. Commander Vel heard the stories too. At first, he ignored them. The defective beast was no longer his problem. Let the foolish human play with her broken toy. It did not matter, but then the stories grew. People started saying that the Kethrin was healthy again, that his armor was healing, that he followed the human girl like a loyal partner. Some even said that his armor had changed color, turning from dull gray to something brighter. Vel grew angry. He had discarded that beast as worthless garbage. Now people were talking about it like it was special, like it was valuable, like he had made a mistake, and Commander Vel never made mistakes. One evening, Yuna was feeding the animals in her stable when heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. She turned and saw Commander Vel standing in the doorway. Two armed soldiers stood behind him. Gale immediately moved in front of Yuna. His body tensed. A low rumble came from his chest. Vel looked at the Kethrin with cold eyes. So, the rumors are true. The broken beast lives. Yuna stood straight, though her heart was pounding. He is not broken. He is healed. Healed? Vel laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. A Kethrin war beast cannot be healed. It can only be controlled or destroyed. You have done neither. I did not need to control him. I just needed to care for him. Vel's smile disappeared. He stepped forward and Gale snarled, but the commander did not seem afraid. He looked at the war beast like it was property. His property. This creature belongs to the Drakmor military, Vel said. I am taking it back. Yuna shook her head. No, he is mine. I bought him legally at the auction. You bought garbage scrap, a dead thing. Vel's voice grew sharp. But now that it functions again, it is a military asset. It reverts to military control? That is not how the law works. Vel grinned. It was not a nice grin. Actually, it is. Galactic Trade Law, Section 42. A war beast can only be privately owned if it is proven domesticated through an official trial. Otherwise, it returns to its original military jurisdiction. Yuna felt cold fear spread through her body. A trial? Yes, the beast must demonstrate that it responds to your commands. In the combat arena, in front of official judges. Vel leaned closer, his reptilian breath hot on her face. If it obeys you, you keep it. If it fails, I take it back. And this time, I will make sure it is destroyed properly. He turned and walked toward the door. At the entrance, he looked back. You have 30 days, human. Train your pet. Make it obey, or say goodbye. The soldiers followed him out. Their footsteps faded into the darkness. Yuna stood frozen. Her hands were shaking. Behind her, Gale pressed his head against her back, trying to comfort her. But she could barely feel it. All she could feel was Terror Doteho arrived an hour later. Bora came soon after. They sat together in the stable, talking in low voices. This is impossible, Taiho said angrily. Gale does not obey commands. That is the whole point. He burned out his own control chip rather than follow orders. Bora nodded slowly. Vel knows this. He's not expecting Yuna to win. He's expecting her to fail. Then he takes the beast back and destroys it. And he humiliates her in front of the entire station. What kind of trial is this? Yuna asked quietly. Bora sighed. The combat arena tests 3 things. The beast must respond to 3 commands under combat conditions. Drones will attack. Chaos will surround you. And Gale must follow your orders perfectly. 1 failure and you lose. Yuna looked at Gale. He was watching her with his one good eye. He could not understand the words, but he understood her fear. He pressed closer to her, offering his warmth. He does not follow commands, Yuna whispered. He never has. He never will. Then we need to find another way, Taiho said. Some trick. Some loophole. But Bora shook her head. There is no trick. The judges will watch every detail. Either the beast obeys or it does not. Silence filled the stable. The situation seemed hopeless. Yuna had saved Gale's life only to lose him again. And this time there would be no second chance. Then Yuna raised her head. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. Gale does not follow commands, she said. But he does trust me. Taiho frowned. What is the difference? A command is an order. You give it, and the beast obeys because it has no choice. Yuna stood and walked to Gale. She placed her hand on his face. But trust is different. Trust is a choice. Gale chooses to stay with me. He chooses to follow me. He chooses to protect me. Bora's eyes widened. You are not going to command him in the arena. No, Yuna said. I am going to trust him. Taiho looked at his sister like she had lost her mind. Yuna, that is insane. You cannot win a military trial with feelings. But Yuna only smiled. It was a small smile, scared but certain. Humans have been winning with feelings for thousands of years, she said. It is what makes us different. And it is what Commander Vel will never understand. She turned to Gale and pressed her forehead against his. We have 30 days, she whispered. We do this together. Gale rumbled softly. It was not a war cry. It was something gentler. Something like agreement. The countdown had begun. Yuna woke before sunrise every day. The station's artificial lights had not yet brightened when she entered the stable. Gale was already awake, waiting for her. He always seemed to know when she was coming, even before her footsteps reached the corridor. Good morning, she said softly, pressing her hand against his snout. Ready to work? They did not train the way military officers trained war beasts. There were no shock collars. No punishment. No pain. Instead, Yuna ran alongside Gale through the station's empty cargo tunnels. She climbed. He climbed. She jumped. He jumped. They moved together like water flowing through a river. Teho watched from a distance, confused but slowly understanding. You are not teaching him to obey you, he said one morning. No, Yuna replied, breathing hard from the exercise. I am teaching him to know me. And Gale was learning. He learned the way Yuna moved when she was tired. He learned the sound of her footsteps when she was happy or sad. He learned the small gestures she made with her hands. A slight tilt left meant move left. A small raise meant stop, a forward motion meant go. She never spoke these commands out loud. She did not need to. Gale watched her body, and he understood, but something else was happening too. Something nobody expected. Gale's bio-armor was changing. Catherine? War beasts were covered in thick organic plating that grew from their skin. In military service, this armor was always dark gray, the color of obedience. But as the days passed, Yuna noticed thin lines of gold appearing in Gale's plates. At first, it was just a few threads. Then more. Then entire patterns spreading across his shoulders and chest. Bora came to examine him and went completely silent. This is impossible, she finally said. What does it mean? Yuna asked. Bora walked around Gale slowly, studying every inch of his changing armor. Thousands of years ago, Catherine Beast lived with a species called the Valen. They were partners, bonded for life. When a Catherine bonded with its partner, its armor turned gold. It was the sign of a true connection. What happened to the Valen? Bora's voice grew sad. The Drakmor wiped them out. They wanted the Catherine beasts as weapons, but the beasts would not bond with their killers. So the Drakmor created the neural implants. They forced obedience through pain instead of earning it through trust. She looked at Yuna with amazement in her eyes. For centuries, no Catherine has shown the gold. They were not allowed to bond. They were only allowed to serve? But you... She shook her head slowly. You awakened something that was supposed to be dead forever. Yuna looked at Gale. He pressed his golden-threaded head against her shoulder. She felt tears building in her eyes. He was never broken, she whispered. He was just waiting. Waiting for someone to love him the right way. The days passed quickly. 20 days left. 15:10, Yuna and Gale practiced endlessly. They learned to read each other like a single mind. When she moved, he moved. When she stopped, he stopped. When danger came close, he was there before she could even react. Other humans on the station began to help. They brought food. They offered advice. A retired soldier showed Yuna how the combat arena worked. A pilot let her practice in the cargo tunnels during off hours. Even Taiho stopped worrying and started believing. Maybe you can actually win this, he said one night. Yuna smiled tiredly. Maybe. But doubt still lived in her heart. The combat arena was designed for military war beasts, creatures controlled by neural implants. Gale had no implant. He had only trust. And trust was fragile. Trust could break, the night before the trial. Una could not sleep. She sat in Gale's pen, her back against his warm side. The station was quiet. The other animals slept peacefully in their corners. But Una's mind was racing. What if I fail? She whispered. What if I am not enough? Gale shifted and lowered his massive head into her lap. His one good eye looked up at her. In that eye she saw no doubt, no fear. Only calm acceptance. He trusted her completely. Una started crying. Not sad tears. Not scared tears. Something deeper. Something that came from a place inside her that had been closed for years. Since her parents died, she had felt alone. Even with Taiho beside her, even surrounded by creatures she saved, she had always felt like something was missing. Like a piece of her heart was empty, but looking at Gale now, she understood. He was not just an animal she rescued. He was her partner. Her family? He had healed her just as much as she had healed him. I am proud of you, she said softly, stroking his scarred face. Whatever happens tomorrow, you are not broken. You never were. And nobody will ever make you feel worthless again? Gale rumbled deep in his chest. It was a sound of contentment, of peace, of belonging. They stayed like that until the station lights began to brighten. Morning came. Trial day. Una dressed in simple clothes, comfortable pants, a worn jacket, sturdy boots. She did not look like a warrior. She looked like exactly what she was, a young woman, who cleaned stables and saved broken things. Taiho met her at the stable entrance. His face was worried, but his voice was steady. I will be in the audience. Right in the front row. If anything goes wrong, nothing will go wrong, Una said. But if it does, then we lose together. She hugged him tightly. Thank you for believing in me. Bora arrived next. She handed Una a small bag of medical supplies. Just in case, she said. Then she hugged Una too. You are the bravest human I have ever met. Una took a deep breath. She walked into the stable one last time. Gale stood waiting, his armor gleaming with gold threads. He looked stronger than he ever had, healthier, more beautiful. She placed her forehead against his. Together, she whispered. He rumbled in. Response. Together. They walked out of the stable and toward the combat arena, the corridors filled with aliens and humans, all heading the same direction. Everyone wanted to see the trial. Everyone wanted to see if the impossible could happen. Una kept her head high. Gale walked beside her, massive and golden, no chain and no harness, just two partners walking into battle. The combat arena was built for war. It was a massive circular space in the heart of station. Omega-12, metal walls rose 50 meters high. Weapon turrets lined the ceiling. The floor was covered with scars from past battles, burn marks, claw scratches, and dark stains that nobody talked about. Today, 10,000 spectators filled the seats. Aliens of every species crowded together, pushing and shoving for a better view. Military officers sat in reserved sections, their uniforms crisp and their eyes cold. Traders made bets on the outcome. Reporters recorded everything for the galaxy to see. And in the center of the arena, Una stood alone. No, not alone. Gale stood beside her. Commander Vel watched from the highest platform, surrounded by his soldiers. He looked relaxed, confident. He had already won in his mind. The broken beast would fail. The foolish human would cry. And everything would return to proper order. An elderly alien in ceremonial robes walked to the center of the arena. This was the trial judge, a scholar named Elder Morin. She had witnessed hundreds of trials in her long life. She had seen war beasts tear their handlers apart. She had seen perfect obedience and perfect violence. But she had never seen anything like this. Una stood quietly, wearing no armor and carrying no weapon. Gale stood beside her with no chains and no neural collar. His golden freaked armor gleamed under the arena lights. They looked less like master and beast, more like friends waiting for something together. The trial will now begin, Elder Morin announced. Her voice echoed across the arena. The beast must respond to 3 commands under combat conditions. Failure of any command means failure of the trial. Success of all three means private ownership is confirmed. She turned to Yuna. Are you prepared? Yuna nodded, then let the first test begin. Hatches opened in the arena walls. Combat drones flew out, small machines with sharp blades and laser cannons. They circled overhead, waiting for the signal. First command, Elder Morin said. Movement. The beast must follow your directional order. A siren screamed. The drones attacked. Laser fire rained down. Yuna did not shout. She did not scream. She simply shifted her body to the left. Gale moved with her dot not behind her. Beside her. He matched her movement perfectly, his massive body shielding her from the incoming fire. His armored flank absorbed the blasts without flinching. The crowd went silent. The drones regrouped and attacked again. Yuna tilted right. Gale followed. She stepped back. He stepped back. They moved like dancers, perfectly synchronized. Elder Morin raised her staff. First test, passed. A murmur ran through the crowd. Commander Vel frowned slightly, but he was not worried yet. The first test was easy. The second would be harder. Second command, the judge announced. Offensive action? The beast must strike a target on your order. More drones appeared. These were larger, faster, deadlier. They dove toward Yuna with spinning blades. Yuna watched them come. She felt Gale tense beside her, ready to attack. But she waited. She had to show control. She had to show choice. At the last possible moment. She raised her hand forward. Gale exploded into motion. He leaped into the air with impossible grace. His claws tore through the first drone. His tail smashed the second. His teeth crushed the third. Metal rained down around Yuna like snow, but here was the miracle. Gale was not raging. He was not lost in battle fury. He destroyed the threats with calm precision, then landed softly beside Yuna. His breathing was steady. His eye was clear. He had not attacked because he was forced. He had attacked because she asked. Second test? Passed? Now the crowd was buzzing. Aliens leaned forward in their seats. Some were smiling. Others looked shocked. Even the military officers seemed uncertain. Commander Vel was no longer smiling. His claws dug into his armrest. This was not supposed to happen. Third command, Elder Morin said. Return. The beast must cease combat and return to its handler. This was the hardest test. War beasts in combat did not stop. Their blood ran hot. Their instincts screamed for violence. Breaking that cycle required absolute control, the kind only neural implants could provide, or so everyone believed. The remaining drones attacked all at once. Gale roared and charged to meet them. His armor flashed gold as he tore through machine after machine. The crowd cheered. The arena shook with the sound of battle, but Yuna did not watch the fight. She watched Gale. She saw the wildness building in his eyes. She saw the old pain returning, the memories of slavery, of punishment, of endless war. He was losing himself. Yuna stepped forward. She stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by chaos and fire. And then she did something strange. She opened her arms. Gale, she said softly. Not a command. Just his name. Gale was mid-strike, his claws raised to destroy another drone. But he heard her. Through the noise and the violence, he heard her. He froze. The drone escaped. Others circled around him, waiting to attack. But Gale did not care about them anymore. He turned his head and looked at Yuna standing alone in the arena, her arms open wide. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Gale lowered his claws. He turned away from the battle. He walked slowly across the arena floor, past burning wreckage and sparking machines. He walked straight to Yuna and pressed his forehead against hers. The drones hovered, confused. Then Elder Morin raised her staff and deactivated them. Third test, passed. The arena exploded with noise. Humans jumped to their feet and cheered. Even some aliens were clapping. Taiho was screaming his sister's name. Bora was crying happy tears, but Commander Vel was already moving. He pushed through his guards and stormed toward the arena floor. His face was twisted with rage. This proves nothing, he shouted. The beast is defective. The trial is a fraud. He reached for his sidearm and pointed it at Una. The creature belongs to the Drakmor, and I will not be humiliated by a human child. Everything stopped. Guards hesitated. The crowd gasped. Taiho screamed and tried to reach his sister, but Gale moved faster than anyone. He stepped in front of Una, his massive body blocking her completely. His golden armor flared with light. And then something happened that nobody in the arena would ever forget. Gale opened his mouth and released a sound, not a roar of rage. Not a battle cry? Something older. Something deeper. A resonant thrum that shook the walls of the arena. A vibration that rattled bones and stopped hearts. An ancient Kethran warning that had not been heard in centuries. This one is protected. Commander Vel stumbled backward. His weapon fell from his trembling hand. The soldiers behind him retreated in fear. Station security finally moved, grabbing Vel and pulling him away. "You are under arrest for threatening a civilian," they announced. Vel screamed as they dragged him toward the exit. "This is not over. The beast is mine. It will always be mine." But Gale only watched him go with calm, golden eyes. And Una placed her hand on his shoulder, feeling his warmth beneath her fingers. It was over. Elder Morin approached them slowly. Her ancient face showed something rare wonder. "In all my years," she said softly, "I have never witnessed a true Kethran bond. The military forgot what these creatures once were. But you, child," she smiled gently, "you reminded us." She stamped her official seal onto a document. "Gale belongs to Una, permanently. No military claim may ever challenge this." The crowd cheered again, even louder than before, but Una did not hear them. She was too busy hugging Gale's massive neck, crying and laughing at the same time. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." Gale rumbled happily against her. His golden armor shimmered in the arena lights. 6 months later, Una and Gale worked as an emergency rescue team in the outer colonies. Where others sent machines, the colonies requested them. Gale was no longer weak and scarred. His armor gleamed brilliant gold. His eye was bright and clear. Una rode on his back as they crossed dangerous terrain, saving miners from collapsed tunnels and travelers from crashed ships. They were partners in everything. And across the galaxy, a quiet change was happening. Other humans began visiting auctions. They bought the creatures others called broken. They took them home and loved them back to life. The aliens watched in confusion and slowly growing respect, because humans understood something the galaxy had forgotten. Some beings could not be commanded. But if you earned their trust, they would shake the stars for you, and Una and Gale had proven it. Forever.